The red dust swirled around Dr. Amanda Hayes's boots as she adjusted the settings on her quantum scanner. Mars had been silent for millions of years, but today something felt different. The device in her hands hummed with an unfamiliar resonance, its holographic display showing readings unlike anything she'd encountered in her 15 years of xenorchaeology. "You're going to want to see this, Colonel Morrison," she called over the comlink, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The readings were off the charts, suggesting a vast network of chambers nearly 2 miles beneath the Martian surface. Colonel Jack Morrison's heavy footsteps crunched through the rust-colored sand as he approached. Even through his environment suit's visor, the skepticism was clear on his weather-worn face. After the devastating First Contact War with the Crixus Empire just 8 months ago, the military had been breathing down the science division's neck, hoping for any discovery that might give Earth an edge. "Another dead end, Doc?" he asked, but Amanda was already shaking her head, her auburn hair catching the dim sunlight through her helmet. "This is different. The energy signature, it's active. Whatever's down there, it's still running after all this time." She tapped several commands into her wrist console, and a 3-dimensional map materialized in the space between them. Morrison's expression changed as he studied the hologram. "Those look like hangar bays," Amanda finished. "Massive ones, big enough to house something that could make our largest battleships look like toys." The excavation took less than 6 hours with their advanced mining equipment. As the last layer of rock gave way, Amanda's team found themselves standing at the entrance of a vast chamber that seemed to stretch forever into the darkness. The facility's environmental systems, powered by some unknown technology, had maintained the internal atmosphere for millennia. Dr. Marcus Thompson, the team's 23-year-old engineering prodigy, was the first to notice the control panel. His fingers danced across the ancient symbols with surprising confidence. "These patterns, they're similar to the deep space mining interfaces we use. It's like someone took our tech and evolved it 1,000 years forward." The chamber erupted in light. Holographic displays filled the space, showing technical specifications and design schematics that made even the most seasoned engineers on the team gasp. At the center of it all stood a massive humanoid figure, rendered in perfect detail. "It's a warrior," Lieutenant Sarah Reynolds breathed, her military training immediately recognizing the design's purpose. "A machine built for combat, but on a scale I've never seen before." Amanda stepped forward, her hand passing through the hologram. "Not just a warrior. Look at the neural interface designs. These weren't meant to be simple machines. They were designed to be extensions of their pilots. Perfect unions of human and machine." "Human?" Morrison asked sharply. "How can you be sure?" Marcus pointed to the neural mapping diagrams floating near the main display. "These interface patterns, they're an exact match for human brain architecture. The synaptic layouts, the neural pathways, it's all designed for a human pilot, almost as if they were made for us," Amanda finished, her voice filled with wonder. "Or by us." The implications hit everyone at once. Humanity wasn't just finding advanced technology. They were finding their legacy, a legacy that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Morrison's comlink crackled to life with an emergency signal from Earth. Another Crixus fleet had been detected at the edge of the solar system, larger than the first, deadlier. Amanda met his gaze, both of them thinking the same thing. They'd just found their answer, hidden in the red dust of Mars. Now the question was, could they master these ancient titans in time? As if in response, the hologram shifted, showing the machine in action. Its movements were graceful despite its enormous size, each motion precise and powerful. In that moment, standing in the shadow of their ancestors' greatest creation, the team felt something they hadn't experienced since the war began. Hope. Colonel Jack Morrison stood before the United Earth Council, his dress uniform crisp despite the hours of endless meetings. The holographic displays behind him showed the technical specifications of Project Prometheus, but it was his next words that would determine humanity's future. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Council," he began, his voice carrying the weight of recent battles, "we don't have the luxury of time. The Crix's fleet will reach our outer defenses in less than 6 months. Traditional weapons won't be enough. We need the Titans." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Chen from the Asian Alliance leaned forward. "And your proposed project lead for this endeavor? Surely not this boy." Marcus Thompson stepped forward from the shadows, his young face set with determination. At 23, he was the youngest person ever to hold 3 PhDs in quantum engineering, neural interface design, and advanced robotics. His black hair was slightly disheveled, and his tie was crooked, but his eyes blazed with intelligence. "With all due respect, Ambassador," Marcus said, activating his own holographic display, "age isn't the critical factor here. Neural plasticity is." The display showed a complex web of synaptic connections. The Titans weren't just designed for human pilots. They were designed for young human pilots. Our brains are still adaptable enough to form the deep neural bonds required for true synchronization. Dr. Amanda Hayes stepped up beside him, supporting his claim. "Our tests show that pilots under 30 have a 89% higher success rate in initial neural handshakes with the test systems. Marcus isn't just our best engineer. He's also our ideal candidate pool's peer." The council chamber erupted in heated discussion. Above them, through the transparent dome, the stars twinkled coldly. Somewhere out there, the Crix's fleet was coming. General Sarah Mitchell, her combat medals gleaming, raised her hand for silence. "I've reviewed the preliminary data. Thompson's team has already achieved more in 2 weeks than our traditional R&D division has in 6 months. I move to approve Project Prometheus with full emergency funding." The vote was close, but desperation won out over tradition. As the council dispersed, Morrison found Marcus standing alone at a viewport, staring at the lunar construction yards where their first Titan would be born. "Ready for this, kid?" Morrison asked, standing beside him. Marcus's reflection showed a flicker of uncertainty before steel resolved in his eyes. "The neural interface is ready for testing. We've modified the original designs to account for modern human brain chemistry, but..." He hesitated. "But what?" "The aliens were right about one thing. We are young. As a species, I mean. These Titans, they're not just weapons. There's something more. The neural sync data suggests they can actually evolve with their pilots. Grow. Learn. Become something new." Morrison considered this. "Is that a problem?" "It's an opportunity," Marcus replied, pulling up a simulation on his tablet. "Look at these patterns. Every other species we've encountered has rigid neural pathways. But humans? Our brains are chaos engines. We make connections no one else would think of. Combined with Titan technology." He trailed off, eyes bright with possibilities. The next day, as dawn broke over the lunar surface, Project Prometheus officially began. Marcus led a team of 300 engineers, their average age just 27. They worked around the clock, fueled by caffeine and determination. The alien observers sent to monitor the project watched with poorly concealed disdain. The mantis-like Silaran ambassador clicked his mandibles in amusement as young engineers raced through the facility, making adjustments and running simulations. But their laughter died when the first neural sync test exceeded all theoretical limits. Marcus's team hadn't just matched the ancient specs, they'd improved them. Human innovation, driven by desperate need, and young minds unbound by convention, was about to change the rules of warfare forever. In his private lab, Marcus made one final adjustment to the neural interface design, his fingers flying over the holographic controls. On his screen, the message everyone had been waiting for finally appeared. Titan Neural Core Line. Rev for pilot integration. The race against time had begun. Lieutenant Emma Carter stared up at Atlas through the reinforced windows of the Armstrong Lunar Control Center. The Titan towered above the facility, its 3-kilometer frame gleaming under the harsh lunar sun. Her hand unconsciously touched the neural interface at the base of her skull. The key to humanity's greatest gamble. Neural sync test initiating in 5 minutes. Marcus Thompson's voice echoed through the chamber. He'd been awake for 48 hours straight, but his eyes were sharp as he monitored the holographic displays. Emma, are you sure about this? The simulations were promising, but I'm sure. She cut him off, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. As a former Space Force fighter pilot, she'd connected with ships before, but this was different. The neural load from a Titan could theoretically fry her brain if anything went wrong. Colonel Morrison watched from the observation deck above, along with representatives from every major Earth nation. The Accelerant observer, Supreme Commander Zixtal, clicked his mandibles in what the humans had learned was their expression of skepticism. Emma stepped into the neural cradle, a web of advanced technology that would link her mind to Atlas. The technicians secured her, attaching monitors and backup systems. She caught her reflection in the polished surface, short blonde hair, determined green eyes, and the slight scar above her left eyebrow from the first Crixus War. Beginning neural handshake, Marcus announced. Synchronization at 10%. 20. 30. Emma felt it start as a whisper in her mind, like distant music growing louder. The sensation was unlike anything she'd experienced in the simulators, where traditional neural links felt like wearing a second skin. This was more like growing new limbs, expanding her consciousness into something vast and powerful. 50%. 60. Wait. Marcus's voice hitched. These readings can't be right. The neural bridge is adapting, evolving beyond the original parameters. Emma barely heard him. Her awareness had expanded to fill Atlas's frame. She could feel the lunar regolith under the Titan's massive feet, sense the solar wind against its armor. More than that, she could feel the machine's potential, like a living thing eager to move. Synchronization at 100%. Marcus whispered. No, 120. 150. This is impossible. Through Atlas's external sensors, Emma could see the gathered observers, their faces a mix of fear and wonder. The Accelerant commander had gone completely still, all 4 arms rigid with shock. Emma. Marcus called. How do you feel? She smiled, though no one could see it in the cradle. Like I could touch the stars. Then she moved. Atlas responded with a grace that defied its size. The Titan lifted from its docking clamps, thrusters igniting with perfect precision. In the low lunar gravity, the massive machine began to dance. Emma guided Atlas through a series of maneuvers that should have been impossible for something so large. The Titan spun, jumped, and wove through a complex pattern that made professional dancers look clumsy. Each movement was precise, controlled, and beautiful. My God, Morrison breathed. She's not just controlling it. She's become one with it. Marcus finished, his fingers flying over the controls as he recorded everything. The neural interface isn't just creating a connection. It's creating a synthesis. The Titan's learning from her as much as she's learning from it. For the final, Emma did the impossible. She made Atlas perform a perfect backflip. 3 kilometers of advanced technology, moving with the grace of an Olympic gymnast. The Titan landed with barely a tremor, kneeling before the observation window in a warrior's bow. The control room erupted in cheers, but Emma wasn't done. Through Atlas's external speakers, Her voice rang out, filled with the joy of discovery. "Marcus, are you seeing this? There's so much more here. The Titans, they're not just machines. They're partners, and they've been waiting for us." In that moment, as humanity watched their first Titan move with impossible grace under the Earth's watchful gaze, everyone present knew the galaxy was about to change forever. Major David Rodriguez watched through Prometheus's enhanced sensors as the Arcturus Confederation flagship emerged from hyperspace near Saturn's rings. The massive vessel, shaped like a crystal spire, dwarfed the human escort ships sent to meet it. Supreme Scientific Overseer Dr. Zixtal had come to evaluate humanity's primitive attempts at mastering Titan technology. "Remember," Marcus Thompson's voice crackled through the neural link, "this isn't just a demonstration, it's a message." David smiled inside his neural cradle. At 32, he was almost too old for perfect synchronization, but what he lacked in neural plasticity, he made up for in experience. "Trust me, kid. I'll give them a show they'll never forget." The Confederation delegation stepped onto the observation deck of the research station Cronus, their environmental suits adapting to human atmosphere. Dr. Zixtal towered over the human representatives, his crystalline form refracting the light from Saturn's rings behind him. "We have reviewed your initial test data," the alien scientist announced, his translated voice tinged with condescension. "While impressive for your species, we find it concerning that such technology has fallen into undeveloped hands." Colonel Morrison stepped forward, his diplomatic training barely containing his irritation. Perhaps a demonstration would help alleviate those concerns. He nodded to the window. "Major Rodriguez, you may begin." Prometheus moved. The 3-kilometer Titan had been waiting at the edge of Saturn's ring system, nearly invisible against the black of space. Now it burst into motion, its frame illuminated by the giant planet's reflected light. David felt the neural connection singing through his mind as he guided Prometheus forward. The Titan's feet found purchase on the larger ice fragments, using them as stepping stones. Each movement was calculated to the millimeter, each step a dance through the debris field that would have shredded any normal ship. "Impossible," one of the alien scientists whispered. "The computational power required to navigate the rings at that speed isn't computational at all," Marcus interjected, his young face reflecting in the window. "It's intuitive. Human spatial awareness combined with the Titan's enhanced sensory systems." David guided Prometheus through a series of increasingly complex maneuvers. The Titan spun between ring particles, its massive frame moving with ballet-like precision. Energy fields flickered around its surface, deflecting ice and rock with microscopic accuracy. Then the emergency signal flashed. A mining vehicle had suffered a catastrophic engine failure, its reactor going critical. The ship, carrying a crew of 12, was tumbling through the ring system at near relativistic speed. Without hesitation, David changed course. Prometheus moved like lightning, broadcasting calculations to the observation deck. The alien scientists watched in horror as their computers predicted the impossible. No object that size could move fast enough to intercept the ship without being torn apart. David proved them wrong. Prometheus caught the mining vessel in a cocoon of energy, cushioning the impact with fields generated from the Titan's own power core. The rescue should have ripped the Titan's arms off. Instead, David used the ring system itself, letting ice particles deflect and absorb the energy of their spin. When Prometheus landed on the station's main dock minutes later, gently cradling the safe mining ship, the silence in the observation deck was deafening. Dr. Zixtal's crystalline form had changed color, a sign of intense emotion in his species. "How?" he demanded. "Our best pilots, with centuries more experience, cannot achieve such control." Marcus stepped forward, his tired face breaking into a grin. Because they're not human. We don't just connect with the Titans. We dream with them. Every movement Major Rodriguez just performed was something he imagined, and the Titan made real. That's the difference between operating a machine and dancing with a partner. The alien scientists huddled together, speaking rapidly in their native tongue. The fear in their voices needed no translation. Humanity hadn't just mastered the Titan technology. They'd surpassed it. As David emerged from his neural cradle, the safe miners rushed to thank him. But his eyes were on the stars, where the first reports of Crix's fleet movement were coming in. The real test was about to begin. Lieutenant Hannah Mitchell never expected to be humanity's last line of defense. The attack on Europa's Titan production facility came during her night shift, when most of the base was running on minimal staff. She was deep in neural sync tests with her Titan, Artemis, when the first Confederation warships dropped out of hyperspace. Multiple hostile signatures detected. The base AI announced, its voice eerily calm. Confederation battle fleet, 47 capital ships, 200 support vessels. Estimated time to weapons range, 3 minutes. Hannah's heart raced, but her neural link with Artemis remained steady. 6 months of training had made the connection as natural as breathing. Control, this is Lieutenant Mitchell. Artemis is combat ready, requesting permission to launch. Negative, Lieutenant. Base Commander Roberts' voice crackled through the comm. The fleet's too large. Fall back tow. His voice cut off as the first bombardment hit the base's shields. Hannah made her decision. The neural link surged as she pushed Artemis to full power. I'm sorry, sir, but there's no time for retreat. She opened a channel to Marcus Thompson back on Earth. Marcus, I'm going to try something crazy. Remember that theory about using Jupiter's magnetic field? Hannah, that's completely untested. Marcus's voice was strained. The energy requirements alone could fry both you and Artemis. Better than watching Europa get vaporized. Hannah guided Artemis out of the launch bay, just as the base's external shields failed. The sight that greeted her was terrifying. The Confederation fleet filled the sky, their crystal ships glowing with charged weapons. Time seemed to slow as her neural connection with Artemis deepened. Hannah felt the Titan systems like they were her own limbs, its sensors becoming her enhanced senses. Jupiter loomed behind her, its massive magnetic field dancing with radiation and energy. The first volley of enemy fire came like a wall of light. Hannah didn't try to dodge. Instead, she did something that the Confederation tacticians had calculated as impossible. She reached out with Artemis's energy systems and touched Jupiter's magnetosphere. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Artemis's shield systems, amplified by the gas giant's natural fields, erupted into a display of northern lights visible from Earth. The enemy fire dissipated against the barrier like rain on hot steel. Energy readings are off the scale, Marcus shouted through the comm. Hannah, you're actually redirecting Jupiter's radiation belts. She didn't respond. All her focus was on the dance that came next. Artemis moved through the enemy fleet like a ghost, its enhanced shields leaving trails of aurora in space. Each movement was precise, each strike calculated. The Confederation ships, for all their advanced technology, couldn't track the Titan's speed. Hannah felt everything through the neural link. The pulse of Jupiter's magnetosphere, the hum of Artemis's core, the pattern of enemy movements. She wasn't just fighting. She was conducting a symphony of energy and motion. The battle lasted 27 minutes. When it was over, the Confederation fleet was in ruins, their crystal ships shattered by precisely targeted strikes. Not a single ship had been completely destroyed. Hannah had disabled them all with surgical precision, leaving crews alive but systems frozen. As rescue ships approached from Earth, Hannah finally let the enhanced shield drop. The aurora faded, but its image had already been captured by every telescope and sensor array in the solar system. Humanity's first real Titan victory would be remembered not just for its success, but for its beauty. Commander Robert's voice finally came through, filled with awe. "Lieutenant, how did you know that would work?" Hannah smiled inside her neural cradle, feeling Artemis's systems humming in perfect harmony with her mind. "I didn't, sir, but Artemis did. These machines, they remember things, ancient things. All we have to do is trust them and trust ourselves." The Confederation would later claim the battle was a fluke, a lucky convergence of factors that could never be repeated. But the video of a single Titan dancing through space, wrapped in Jupiter's own aurora, told a different story. Humanity hadn't just found its defenders, it had found its future. Michael Maverick Anderson had always lived for speed. As a former racing champion, he pushed the limits of everything he'd ever piloted. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. Inside the neural cradle of his Titan, Phoenix, he felt something changing. The machine wasn't just responding to his commands, it was anticipating them. "Your sync rates are unprecedented," Marcus Thompson's voice echoed through the link. The young engineer had dark circles under his eyes, but his excitement was palpable. "The neural patterns are actually evolving." They were testing Phoenix in the asteroid belt, far from prying eyes. After Lieutenant Mitchell's victory at Europa, the Confederation had doubled their surveillance efforts. But they couldn't track what they couldn't predict. "I can feel it," Michael replied, his mind dancing through Phoenix's systems. "It's like, remember when I told you about racing? How sometimes the car becomes an extension of your body. This is different. Phoenix isn't just an extension, it's a partner." Marcus leaned forward at his control station on the support ship. "Show me." Michael grinned inside the neural cradle. "Watch this." Phoenix moved, but not like any Titan before it. The machine's outer shell began to shift, its molecular structure responding to Michael's neural commands in real time. Armor plates flowed like liquid metal, reconfiguring themselves into new shapes. "Impossible," one of the scientists muttered. The original designs never suggested this level of structural manipulation. But Michael wasn't done. As Phoenix wove through the asteroid field, its form continued to change. Energy fields that usually formed defensive barriers began to take new shapes, extending from the Titan's back like wings of pure light. "The power consumption should be tearing the reactor apart," another engineer noted, checking his readings. "But it's actually becoming more efficient." Marcus' understanding dawned on his face, because it's not fighting physics, it's dancing with it. "Michael, your racing experience. You're not just piloting Phoenix, you're teaching it to feel the flow of space itself." A warning klaxon interrupted their discussion. 3 Confederation stealth ships decloaked nearby, their weapons charging. They'd been waiting to catch a Titan in a vulnerable testing phase. Michael's response was instant and instinctive. Phoenix's newly formed energy wings flared, creating a cascade of prismatic light that confused the enemy targeting systems. The Titan moved like a bird of prey, its reconfigured form allowing it to pull maneuvers that defied traditional space combat doctrine. "They're trying to lock on," Marcus warned. "Their weapons air." "Don't worry," Michael cut him off. "Phoenix and I have got this." The Titan spun through space, its adaptive armor flowing like water. When the Confederation ships fired, their shots passed through empty space. Phoenix had already changed again, its structure morphing to present minimal target profiles, while maintaining perfect balance. The battle lasted less than a minute. Phoenix danced between the enemy vessels, its energy wings leaving trails of light that blinded their sensors. With surgical precision, the Titan disabled their weapon systems without causing critical damage. As the Confederation crews surrendered, Marcus was already running analysis on the data. "This changes everything." The Titans aren't just machines we can pilot. They're learning systems capable of evolution. And with the right human partner, they become something entirely new, Michael finished. Through his neural link, he could feel Phoenix's satisfaction, like a well-trained dance partner after a perfect performance. The ancient builders, I don't think they finished designing these machines. I think they left them incomplete on purpose, waiting for pilots who could help them grow. The discovery spread through the Titan program like wildfire. Each pilot began exploring new ways to adapt and evolve their partners. Some focused on defense, others on speed or power. But all of them found that the true potential of the Titans had only been hinted at in the ancient plans. As Phoenix landed back on the support ship, its form settling into its default configuration, Michael smiled. The Confederation's spies would report what they'd seen, but they'd never understand the truth. Humanity hadn't just found a way to pilot the Titans. They'd found a way to set them free. Commander Sarah Reynolds stood in Liberty's neural cradle, her mind merged with the massive Titan as Earth loomed behind her. The Crixus World Killer Fleet had just emerged from hyperspace, 500 capital ships led by a vessel the size of Manhattan. Long-range sensors showed they'd brought their planet-destroying weapon, the same one that had turned Mars's moon Phobos into cosmic dust during the First War. "All Titans, report in," she commanded, her voice steady, despite the weight of the moment. One by one, 29 other pilots confirmed their status. Each connection hummed through the neural network Marcus had designed, linking their Titans together in ways the ancient builders never imagined possible. "Remember your training," she continued. "We're not just individual pilots anymore. We're a symphony." Through Liberty's enhanced sensors, she could see each Titan taking position, their massive forms catching the sun's light as they formed a defensive line between Earth and the approaching fleet. Michael "Maverick" Anderson's voice came through the link. "Phoenix Squadron, ready to dance." His group of 5 Titans had already shifted into their evolved forms, energy wings spreading wide. "Artemis Team, standing by," Lieutenant Hannah Mitchell reported. Her squadron's Titans were already sensing with Earth's magnetic field, creating ribbons of aurora that connected them. The Crixus fleet approached in perfect formation, their biomechanical ships looking like giant predatory fish swimming through space. Their world-killer weapon began to power up, its energy signature making instruments scream. "They're expecting us to scatter," Sarah observed, feeling Liberty's systems harmonizing with her thoughts. "Let's show them something new instead. All Titans, execute Maneuver Prometheus." What happened next would be recorded by every camera and sensor on Earth. 30 Titans moving in perfect synchronization, their movements guided by a shared neural network that let them think and act as one. They began to weave an intricate pattern in space, their energy fields merging and overlapping. The Crixus fired their first volley, a wall of plasma that could have vaporized a continent. But the Titans were ready. Their combined shields formed geometric patterns that reflected the aurora borealis, each layer adding to the defense. The plasma splashed against it like waves on a shore. "Energy web at full power," Marcus reported from Earth Control. "It's working better than the simulations." Sarah felt the combined strength of all 30 Titans flowing through Liberty systems. This was what the machines had been built for, not just combat, but cooperation on a scale their creators only dreamed of. The Crixus commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Your tricks cannot save you. The world killer cannot be stopped." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "We're not trying to stop it." Through the neural link, she sent a single command that 30 Titans executed simultaneously. "We're going to return it." The world killer fired, its beam of concentrated dark energy lancing toward Earth. But instead of hitting the Titan's shield, it entered a carefully constructed web of overlapping energy fields. Like light through a series of prisms, the beam was caught, redirected, and focused. All Titans, channel everything you've got, Sarah commanded. She felt the strain through the neural link as every pilot pushed their machine to its limit. Their combined energy fields bent space itself, taking the World Killer's power and turning it back on the Crixus fleet. The result was beyond spectacular. The redirected beam cut through the alien fleet like a scythe through wheat. Ships scattered, their perfect formation breaking apart as their ultimate weapon became their undoing. The World Killer itself was split in half, its dark energy core imploding. When the light faded, the remaining Crixus ships were already retreating into hyperspace. Behind the Titan defense line, cheers erupted from every radio channel as Earth celebrated its salvation. But Sarah wasn't done. All Titans, form up. Let's make sure they remember why they should never return. The 30 Titans moved into a new formation, their energy fields creating a display that would be visible from light years away. A message written in aurora and stardust that said more than words ever could. Earth was protected. 5 years after the Great Defense, the Armstrong Titan Academy stretched across the lunar surface like a gleaming city of steel and light. Director Marcus Thompson stood at the observation deck, watching the latest class of cadets training in their Titans. Among them was Elena Rodriguez, David's daughter, her Titan moving with the same natural grace that had made her father famous. "It's strange," Emma Carter said, coming to stand beside him. The first Titan pilot had aged well, though strands of gray now streaked her blonde hair. "I remember when we thought these machines were just weapons. Now look at them." Below, a mixed group of human and alien cadets worked through complex maneuvers together. A crystalline Arcturus student's Titan danced in perfect sync with Elena's, their energy fields creating patterns that would have been impossible 5 years ago. "The Confederation called yesterday," Marcus said, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "They're requesting 10 more training slots for next year's class. Even the Crixus have submitted their first application." The main hangar doors opened, revealing Atlas, Emma's original Titan, now evolved far beyond its initial form. The machine had grown with her over the years, its surface shifting with patterns that reflected its pilot's thoughts. New cadets always fell silent when they saw it, knowing they were looking at living history. "Commander Reynolds is due back today," Emma noted, checking her neural link display. The black hole containment mission was a success. Marcus nodded. The mission had been the ultimate test of human-alien cooperation. A joint team of Titans working together to stabilize a rogue black hole that threatened the Centaur colonies. Sarah Reynolds had led the operation, coordinating a fleet of 50 Titans from 6 different species. "Elena's squad is ready," he said, watching the young pilot lead her team through another complex formation. "They'll be the first graduation class to include more alien students than human ones. Her father would be proud." Emma's voice softened, remembering David Rodriguez's final mission. He'd survived the Great Defense, only to sacrifice himself 2 years later, using Phoenix to shield a civilian transport from a solar flare. His actions had saved 5,000 lives and inspired the Academy's core philosophy. Titans were protectors, not conquerors. A flash of light drew their attention skyward. A massive Titan emerged from hyperspace, its form unlike anything the ancient builders had envisioned. Liberty, Sarah Reynolds' Titan, had evolved to navigate the space between stars. Its energy wings spanned kilometers, trailing cosmic aurora in its wake. "Director Thompson," Sarah's voice came through the comm. "Permission to land with some unexpected guests." Behind Liberty, more shapes emerged from hyperspace, ships of unknown design, their technology as advanced as anything humanity had ever seen. First contact with a new species, and they'd chosen to approach the Academy rather than Earth's government. "They saw our work at the black hole," Sarah explained. "They've been watching us for years, watching how we've used the Titans. They say they're representatives of the original builders, and they've been waiting for someone to understand what the Titans were really meant to be. Marcus exchanged looks with Emma. They both knew what this meant. The Titans had never been just tools or weapons. They were seeds planted across the galaxy, waiting for a species that could help them grow into something greater. As the visitors descended toward the academy, Alina's training squad formed an honor guard, their Titans creating a bridge of light between the stars and the lunar surface. Each machine moved with perfect precision, their human and alien pilots working in harmony. "You know what this means," Emma said softly. "Everything we've learned, everything we've built, it was just the beginning." Marcus smiled, watching the future unfold before him. The young engineer who'd once fought to prove himself had found something far greater than victory. He'd helped find a way to turn ancient weapons into bridges between stars, fear into understanding, and former enemies into fellow students. "No," he replied, as the first of the builder ships landed. "This isn't the beginning. It's just the next step. The stars are waiting, and we finally know how to dance with them."